Hey Danny,
Hi, Kat.
how are you?
I'm well. How about you?
Good, thank you. Welcome to DSP's March Fireside Chat. I'm especially excited for this one because you are our very first romance author to be featured.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better and introduce you to our readers. So, why don't we just start out by telling me a little bit about yourself and your writing career?
Okay. I'm Danni Roan, and I have been writing for almost 7 years now. I started writing after the death of my sister, actually. She was also an author and struggled to get published. And I thought, well, why in the world why am I waiting? So I jumped right in and I've learned a lot with that. I love Westerns. I love Western romance. I think I was influenced by my dad who read all the westerns, and my mom who read a lot of different romance genres. So I learned to love a lot of different books and stories, and I've poured a lot of that into my stories and my writing itself. For the last few years, my husband and I have been traveling, and we lived in an RV for 3 years. We are formerly teachers, and we decided that once we came back from teaching overseas, we would sort of explore our own country and see what was out here. We ended up landing in Yellowstone as seasonal workers, staying in the RV until this past October. And my husband was offered a full time position. So I am currently living in Yellowstone National Park, where I have an apartment on the government side near Old Faithful. So I can just walk over and see Old Faithful and the Geyser Basin and the bison and hopefully a bear. There's been a bear around here this week, but I have not seen it yet.
You say hopefully. You want to
Yeah,
see the bear.
yeah,
You're
absolutely.
excited.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I think it's so interesting how you came to be where you are. And so tell me, living in Yellowstone, has that inspired some of your stories? Just I feel
Yes.
like you could walk outside and write a new novel.
I think it's given me a more in-depth notion of a lot of where my books are set, which is in Wyoming. We've explored a lot of Wyoming and, of course, the park as well. And it's just, even though you do your homework, you do your research, it's a lot different when you're actually here and get to see the landscape and get to see what's out there, what grows here, what it really is like to be in the area. And I've definitely been inspired. We actually came to the park for the first time ever in 2018 in a little tiny camper and stayed here and got to explore. And the Lake Hotel inspired a story at that point, but I never actually got to write it until this past year.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of fun. I'm a bit all over the place, I guess, with my writing. I primarily write Western historical romance, Christian content, Christian contemporary, but I like to dabble in some crazy projects my friends have talked me into, like a few time travel stories, little Christmas and holiday books that are just fun, light reads. And recently, I've started writing a mystery series that is a 4 book series. So I'm kind of busy.
Yes, very busy. Now, are you wow, I'm just thinking about all the different series and all the different characters and genres. How do you get inspiration for so many different stories and characters?
Um, my first books were actually inspired by stories I used to tell my friends when we were kids, about going off and living in the West and meeting a cowboy or whatever. So that was sort of my inspiration at the beginning, and the stories sort of took off. I mentioned my sister earlier, and my Cattleman's Daughters series is kind of based on my mom's family and my family. There's a lot of little elements of personality in my characters from aunts, uncles, cousins, best friends, families, my sisters as well. A friend of mine actually, when I first started writing, asked me, which daughter am I? Which character am I? And I told them I'm never one of the characters. I'm always the horse.
Never.
I'm always the horse.
I love that. What's the horse? Does the horse have a name?
There's lots of different horses,
Yep.
and their personalities really come out. I really love horses. I had a pony when I was a kid that was given to us. he was a cast off. I mean, literally, he had to either go one way or another. And so we adopted him, and I learned a lot from that and loved riding and being in the hills, being in the mountains. The outdoors inspires me greatly. Being here in Yellowstone makes a big difference. But I jokingly tell people that I will steal them and put them in my books. I actually wrote The Winter Keeper's Wife this past year, which is set here in Yellowstone. And one of our painters asked me, he said, "Can I be in the book?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I threw him in a book, and he's literally the painter, and he gives a girl directions. So inspiration comes from all kinds of things. And I've said this before, it can come from a song, it can come from a snippet of conversation, it can come from sitting in a restaurant and hearing someone make a comment and just something sparks. Um, I'm very visual. I'm a very visual person. So being outside, looking at things, seeing things, looking at the uh, unusual aspects of nature and the world really inspires me. But I do steal names. I used to teach, so a lot of my students' names have propped up in my stories.
I love that. Where did you say you might have mentioned this, but where did you grow up? Did you
I grew up in Pennsylvania, so
Okay.
that's where my whole family is. My mom's extended family was there, and my grandfather had a farm, so we grew up just running everywhere, all over the place, up in the hills, up the mountains. I have four siblings. I had two sisters and a brother, and there's two of us left now, but that happens as you get older. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
I followed my brother everywhere. We were the closest in age, and I was probably the hugest pest in the whole wide world. And I think it's one of the reasons, though, my male characters are also quite strong in the stories. I think that I've been able to tap into kind of the guy vibe because I really grew up with my brother and my two cousins just running all over the mountains in Pennsylvania and playing in the woods and climbing into the barn and baling hay, whatever needed done.
I absolutely relate. I have 2 older brothers, and I did the same thing. I followed them everywhere. I was that annoying younger sister that, always was doing the guy things and, wrestling and
Right?
baseball, and but it was great though, you look back at the memories and it's pretty awesome. So, I can totally relate there. So recently, you partnered with DSP, which we're extremely
Mhm.
excited for the Strong Hearts Open Spirits series. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some of my earliest works, and I did mention that they kind of went along with some stories I used to tell our friends. And various things inspired me. Thinking about the epidemic, the pandemic of the Spanish flu in 1918 inspired my first story in that series, which is called Maggie's Valley. And it's about a girl who grew up in the mountains in the West and ended up going back home after losing her family members to sort of recover, to find her soul again. And a lot of my stories have an element of that, of self-discovery. Our characters are like us. They change, they grow, they mature, and they learn as they go. I loved writing about the Westerns because, of course, I can put lots of horses in those. And heading out into the mountains and just finding aspects of the story. These four books in the Strong Hearts, Open Spirits really connect with this idea that women, especially in the past, had to have a strong heart. They had to have an open spirit to stretch out and do something new. In Maggie's Valley, she's completely alone at the beginning of the story. She knows how to shoot, and she just is willing to embrace life and accept whatever comes. In the other three stories in the series, each woman is actually a mail order bride who has come with her own baggage. And at the time, that was a very common thing. Many orphans after the Civil War and many widows after the Civil War had nowhere to go. Manufacturing had been devastated. Unless you had money, it was and family to take care of you, it was very difficult to survive.
Yep.
And of course, the West had opened up, and men had just traveled there in droves, starting farms and ranches and stores and shops and looking for gold and all of the history element to it. So these women really had to strike out and be willing to have the faith that things would work out one way or another. Perhaps their expectations were not very high, They didn't really expect love, but often they did find love, or at least a good sense of companionship. And I think my books explore that. So each character is quite different. One of my characters in Beloved Beulah it's an older couple. And I've found that people really enjoy reading about someone who's maybe in their 40s who has to strike out and start new, and that still happens now. I mean, we make career changes, our families grow up and move, and life is never staying the same. It's constantly about change.
Absolutely. And I love the series, and it's wonderful. The characters are strong, and, seeing them on their journeys. It's just really a beautiful series. All 4 books in the series are available on Amazon. So anybody can go and purchase it there. And before we wrap up, can you give us a little sneak peek about projects you have coming up?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of projects. I want to work on a really short little intro story with the Strong Hearts Open Spirits series, probably dealing with a matchmaker who is looking at the change in later times toward the turn of the 20th century, where things were changing and there weren't as many mail order brides, not as many women were striking out on their own. Things had changed. And I'm also working on my mystery series, so I'm on book 3 of that, and I've really loved it. It's a new adult Christian suspense mystery series, so it's really a little
Contemporary?
bit. It's contemporary. It's a little bit different. A lot of people who have read it have enjoyed it. They're a little impatient to see if there's going to be a romance. Just shh, don't tell, there will be. Um, so I'm working on that. I also have a series that have been planning out, I guess, and that is called The Wolverton Girls, and it is about a dad who doesn't want any of his daughters to get married because no one's good enough for them. And this is historical, but it is set in the Appalachian Mountains.
Okay, I
And
love
I
the idea of that.
yeah, yeah. So my cattleman's daughters, the whole thing was the dad was sneaking around trying to figure out how to get his daughters married off so that they'd have someone to look after them.
Yeah.
And this one's going to be the reverse of that. So it should be a
Okay.
lot of
He's
fun.
gonna live forever, right?
Going to
Just
live
wants
forever.
to take care of his
Yeah. No,
girls.
none of us ever had a dad like that.
Nope, never.
So, um, so those are some of the things I'm doing. And then I'm looking forward to hopefully working with DSP a little bit more and hopefully do another series with them. It's been a really interesting experience. I've primarily been self-published for the last 6 years, and to find someone to partner with that really is supportive and finds good content for their readers has been exciting and fun and a great learning experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're so excited that, we are partnering together, and it's the start of a beautiful partnership. And I know there's going to be more to come. It's been a pleasure working with you on the Strong Hearts series, and I'm
Thank you.
excited for it to reach more readers and to get everyone's feedback.
Great. Thank
Yes.
you. I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing what's next.
Thank you.
All right.
Take
You have a
care.
great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.